first champions of England from the north of the country.
It's still a bit of a blur, really, I think, to actually realise what we've achieved in such a short space of time. In all honesty, we knew we could get into the first division once we put a half-decent side together. Just knowing the strength of rugby, we knew that was pretty straightforward, that ourselves in Richmond would get through the previous season and get promoted. But to then go into the first division and to be not ultra competitive, but to win it in your first year, and to win it in the way that we had to win it in that last month, was quite. I don't think it's yet sunk in just quite what an achievement it was for the club and for the players to do that, and especially that last month, the Bath and Leicester games at Gateshead were sort of horrible weeks to go through, really. You wonder sometimes in these things, you know. I do believe there's a little bit of fate involved in all of these things at the very end. You know, you have to work very, very hard to achieve things, but ultimately there's a little bit which says, well, that drop goal's just going to miss by that much, which might allow you to win it, or Michael Liner's drop goal's going to go over, which will put it on edge for another few weeks. But the fixture list sort of threw up Bath away. Well, it was a great fixture because it's always been the toughest place, or one of the toughest places to go. I hadn't won there very often in the Wasps days, once in fact in the whole of my Wasp career. And we went down there to enjoy ourselves and came away with a victory.
The knee is better. What about Stimpson's foot? Not bad. Tim Stimpson back on target. We're reaching the halfway point in this first half. This is Tuigamala, and here's a chance for the man who's standing in for Bentley, Jim Naylor. Got away from one, needs support, comes from Lam. But Bath across well, needed to be, and penalty given. No time to dwell on it because de Glanville's got it already. Tuigamala says, how do you do, to Brian Roach. Armstrong, Andrew. The boos echoing around the ground every time a Newcastle player gets the ball, but Tuigamala didn't care. It was on from Naylor to Tate, now to leg.
Good body positions from Newcastle.
Lam to Armstrong, to Tate. Needs a scrum half. It's Nesdale who steps in. To the best pass, Tuigamala.
We've all got, certainly the management team and the leading players here, we've all got a little bit of the old, well, you know, we're going to show you. You know, we sort of, in a sense, when we stuck our head above the parapet with Sir John and the whole professionalism debate opened up, and I suppose everybody will see Newcastle as starting that, with myself coming here very early and then getting all the players. So we all feel perhaps that everybody wants to knock us over, which adds to the excitement of it, and it's an even greater challenge for us just to go into the backyards of Bath and Leicester and Harlequins and Wasps, the established clubs, if you like, and say, well, you know, we're new, we've got good players, and we want to be part of this action as well. And that Bath game gave us that opportunity right from day one. They had a lot of injuries, a lot of players missing, but it was still Bath at the recreation ground.
Ryan, Armstrong, Andrew, Tate, and Tate is through here. Still Alan Tate, what a run. Tuigamala, try number one. The centres, the perfect combination. Tate blasting his way through the Bath cover, and Tuigamala on hand, and there was simply no stopping him from that short range. Newcastle have the opening try.
Lovely play from Alan Tate there, great acceleration, look at the power here. Just shrugs off Earnshaw and Harrison, timing of the pass, and Tuigamala, that's not about power, that's about lovely balance.
Because it had been postponed from the early September, we had to play it midweek, and we wanted to get back into the Premiership. The conference was giving us practice matches and everything else, but we really wanted to test ourselves. And the Bath win seemed sort of a long time previously. It was about, as you say, October the 8th. It was August the 23rd when we played Bath. So it was about this 5-week, 6-week gap, and we wanted to play again. And I think in some ways that was one of our best home performances against Northampton. It was a very powerful performance. You could sense before the game there was a lot of nervousness around, because whereas there hadn't been the nervousness at Bath there just to enjoy ourselves and see what happened, suddenly we were at home, expected to win, and the pressure was on, but it was a good performance.
Quick more. That's it. You want it, mate. Go on, Inga! Go on, Inga! Go on, Newcastle! Go on, George! Go on, Doddie Wear! Newcastle! Come on, Newcastle! Come on! Give me Pat Lam!
Thing up until Christmas was the breakup of the season, which affected the supporters as well. You know, we had the conference, which was 6 weeks out of the season. We had the 4 internationals in November, which sort of messed up November, and we sort of then started coming back together. And when we started again in December, I think we'd only played something like 4 or 5 league matches, and then we had to pick things up again. But we were lucky in that we picked it up quickly, and we went to Bristol, as you say, and played well in front of the cameras, scored 50 points, and everybody sort of started saying, well, hang on, we've got to take these boys seriously, because we were still unbeaten at this stage.
Now it's Graham, George Graham bullocking on, he can't get through. Armstrong loves to snipe and gets one of his trademark tries. Gary Armstrong, is there anyone better at that?
Well, that try had to come. Newcastle pack putting great pressure on Bristol. It's power, 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 and in the end, it was easy for Armstrong, the hard work done. Surge after surge. First, it's George Graham, does well to lay this ball back. Bristol backpedaling, and Armstrong, there's the change of pace. Little snipe through Jones, and over for the score.
So Andrew, his chance to increase the lead to 11-5. Yes! No confirmation between the two touch judges, but everybody was well aware the moment that it left the floor that Rob Andrew had struck 3 more points for Newcastle.
It's not easy being a touch judge with Rob Andrew, because he puts such height on his kicks. It's a beautiful strike again.
And it's with Armstrong. Andrew. Tuigamala again in off that wing where the ball is. He is. Newcastle look to clear away, or to come back. It doesn't come back quickly enough. Armstrong. Typical Armstrong swivel. We've seen a typical Armstrong raid with the try. Here's Van Zandvliet. Armstrong. Andrew. Almost getting through, Rob Andrew. Burke did enough to put him off his stride, but it's still with Newcastle and Metcalf. Worrying times these for Bristol just before half-time, and Pat Lam is through. That could turn out to be a crucial score.
Well, that's a hammer blow for Bristol, and it's just come from direct battering from Newcastle. And Lam, he comes from very deep. Bristol make 2 good tackles, and coming from deep, off the angle, a lovely little ball from Armstrong, and the Samoan captain is through.
Credit also to the hooker throwing in. Good quick tap that time from Wear. Now Andrew. Armstrong. Already got 1 try, and look at Armstrong now. He's really hungry. Ryan goes in to make sure the ball's back with Armstrong again. Andrew, Tuigamala, he's got leg with him. Lam, oh, magnificent run from Lam, cutting his way through the Bristol defence. Picked up by Metcalf.
Gutsy stuff from Bristol, they're hanging on for the odds are mounting.
Andrew, Childs, Tuigamala, picked out Burke. And the help came from short, and it was needed. Tate, Naylor, Nesdale. There's an opportunity opening up here. Ryan finds Armstrong, and Armstrong has Lam, and he finds Ryan. And Newcastle, knowing that 1 more score could secure this victory to take them joint top. Armstrong, Andrew, there's plenty of men out wide, and Graham Childs is going through. Newcastle have that try, which puts plenty of daylight between themselves and Bristol. It's Graham Childs who scored it. And it's Bristol 8, Newcastle 23.
Well, Childs gets the score, but it came from excellent play from the Newcastle forwards. Nesdell, very impressive. Ryan, Armstrong and Lam, they are everywhere. These 3 real stars. Dean Ryan once again involved, rolls the right way, it's quick ball. Any number of Newcastle men can score it. Lam goes again. And I tell you, just as we try coming, Childs, he goes over, but there's a big jeer because from in front of the post, Rob Andrew has missed. I can't believe it.
Dean Ryan is taken back there by Craig Short. Armstrong, Andrew, Tuigamala. Armstrong, little ferret that he is, digs that out.
You know, that was a good tackle by Worsley on Tuigamala. Excellent work from the prop.
Lam, Andrew. Sits up nicely for Ian Jones. And now it's with Stuart Lett. Let's see what the fullback can do, given time and given space. Well, Jones, who put the kick in, made sure that he made the follow-up tackle. Popplewell, quite a man to have to bring on, isn't he? Nick Popplewell. Armstrong. Andrew, and this is Tate going through. Alan Tate. He's got plenty of pace, he's got plenty of power, and Alan Tate secures another Newcastle try.
Trapdoors open for Bristol here, and Newcastle now will look to build on this and work on the points difference. Good timing of the pass by Andrew, draws Robert Jones, and Tate explodes through the gap. Good high stepping style away from Burke, and he's over. Just see how he draws Jones there. That's excellent play, and he's got a enveloping step, hasn't he, Alan Tate?
But a good drive from Newcastle, and here's Armstrong, and the little man just burrows in to add another score to this owing Newcastle total. They will be top of the table tonight, 33-8.
This is how you do it, Alan. The Newcastle pack angry, I think. Great surge, one against the head, and bang, Armstrong just drives through Burke.
Popplewell.
Great linking work from the tight forwards. Very good play.
Lam. Nesdale. Wear, everybody wants a touch. Always the forwards leading the charge. Now it's Tate. On from Tuigamala to leg. Back inside to Tuigamala. There's Naylor. This is brilliant stuff from Newcastle. Still Naylor. Oh, that's a stunning try. Forwards and backs linking together to provide some rugby, you'll see. Nothing that Bristol could do.
Yeah, lovely play. Alan Tate, just watch this. Delays that pass, takes Mags out. Excellent play. Inside ball to Tuigamala, and Naylor off his wing. Very strong. The tackle made, but he gets up off his feet, which he's entitled to do, and flies over. It had to come.
And that is opening up all kinds of gaps, and Tuigamala has time to walk that in underneath the post to confirm Newcastle's superiority.
Important for Vainga Tuigamala to get under the post with a conversion to come. But this is tremendous play. Just power, and any back can score. Tuigamala, a little look for the cameraman. Right through the middle. You'll kick this one, Rob, surely.
Good to hear the Andrew Barnes rivalry lives on. It's not just the forwards that are so elusive in the challenge, it's the backs as well. Look at the strength there of Naylor, and Armstrong rounding his man. Armstrong, hat-trick. What a way to end it.
A superb score again from Newcastle. Very good play. Jim Naylor has had a big last 30 minutes, and Gary Armstrong, a tremendous support player. Change of angles, everything. Naylor's pace outside Jones. Good inside ball, and look at the way Armstrong just checks Tweedy on the outside, drops the right shoulder, and he's over.
And then I suppose the key victory in the first half of the season was at Leicester, when we went to Welford Road. Similar to the Bath thing, but more pressure because we were now well into the Premiership. They were just about at full strength. 17,000 packed in the road on a Tuesday night between Christmas and New Year. And it was a lively encounter.
Newcastle try scorers from Armstrong.
The Tetley's Bitter Cup was another competition which we highlighted. As in all cup competitions, the big one is the final. You know, sometimes on the way through in January, February, if you're playing with respect Exeter and Worcester, you're a million miles away from Twickenham. But you've got to keep reminding the players that the picture you want in your mind is Twickenham. You want to be there in May when it's sunny, it's a full house, and it's your team. And we were very disappointed again to go out of that competition. Again, it was a bit of revenge for Northampton because we did them in the league at their place as well as beating them here, very narrowly. And then a couple of weeks later, in fact a month later, they knocked us out of the Tetley Bitter Cup, again in a very, very good game and a very competitive game. And they deserved to win, but that again was another piece of silverware gone. So 2 out of the 3 had disappeared, and we only had the big one left.
And it's Armstrong's turn, a little bit like Dawson moments ago, to take on the responsibility himself. But look at that wrap-up tackle from Tuigamala on Hunter. That made Ian Hunter shudder, but he's back on his feet, and Grayson spins it long. Townsend, almost through goes Tony Underwood. Grayson was signalling there to the referee that Newcastle, in Grayson's view, were offside. Townsend, Twiggamala has got it. Now Grayson has to make this tackle. Slight home in there too. Tony Underwood, blistering run off his wing, takes on Hunter, beats it for pace. Oh, this is magnificent. Inside slight home, doesn't have the pace to get all the way there because Matt Allen has gone back. Armstrong arrives. Arnold off the floor. Andrew just denied at the very end. Tony Underwood. Pat Lam bursting through. They refuse to lie down, Newcastle. Armstrong, Naylor. But surely this is too little too late. Almost 4 minutes of injury time played. And they haven't got the ball anyway. Hunter puts it into touch. Referee checks his watch. It is all over. Northampton are through to the semi-finals of the Tetley's Bidder Cup. It's been a magnificent night and a marvellous second half performance from the home team.
At the time, when you're in the habit of winning, as we were, you don't want too many defeats creeping in. You just want to keep on winning. But I think there does become a bit of a toll if you're staying in all the competitions. Certainly, if we'd stayed in the European Conference and got to the final, we would have had to have moved the Northampton away fixture to a midweek game somewhere. I don't know where, because we already at this stage had 4 league matches to fit in midweek, so it was starting to get tight. And had we stayed longer in the Tetleys as well, I think we'd have started to struggle just on getting the fixtures in. And if you start squashing too many in, then, as we found towards the end of the season, you do start to slip up.
Right footed, the kick from Andrew is straight down. Penalty for Newcastle Falcons by Andrew.
Again, a bit like the Agen performance in the conference semi-final, it was a poor performance, and we put it down to what I called the Five Nations effect around January, February and March, when that was the time when we got knocked out of the Tetleys at Northampton and lost this league match at Richmond on the Saturday, after we'd played Sale here on the Tuesday, so we had little time to rest before having to go to London. And the Five Nations effect is very much, your players are away for a week, back for a week, away for a week, back for a week, and mentally and physically their focus starts to disappear. When they're just here with Newcastle, then you can keep them going in the direction you want them to go in. When other people start pulling them away, and we had the players going in 3 different directions, some to Ireland, some to Scotland, and you could sense it that whenever we got them back, we had to work extra hard to get them back on track. And I think the Richmond performance was almost waiting to happen. And ironically, the Saturday that we lost at Richmond, the following day, Saracens got turned over at Gloucester quite heavily. And I think there were similar reasons for both of those defeats. We played the midweek here. We played the midweek twice actually, because both of our original scheduled matches were moved because of cup commitments. And the game here was a bit of a tetchy sort of affair. It was the first time that the Newcastle and Wasps thing had come together, and obviously everybody knows Dean Ryan and Steve Bates came with me, and I also Nick Popplewell and Graham Childs as players. And then Inga had half a season at Wasps whilst he was at Wigan before we brought him here. So there was a bit of feeling. There was a bit of feeling when we left Wasps, and I think that came across in the first game here, which was a bit niggly. Wasn't a great game, but we won it. That had settled by the return fixture at Loftus Road, but unfortunately for us, that came 4 days after we played Saracens down at Vicarage Road, and we lost both those games. And there was a stage, maybe the 18-17 loss at Wasps was the one that might just trip us up.
contact, and he slots that one through. Now, if Rob Andrew is in fine form, then Newcastle could well be going to victory. And Sant-Andre, who has to go back, along with Fanalua, and that's good work off the floor quickly. Sant-Andre, and this will find Legg, who's come forward from fullback. Stuart Legg, Tate. They're trying to keep the ball alive here, Newcastle, because they know that Gloucester are stretched. But the referee has given a penalty to Gloucester. Armstrong, there's Lam, opened up for him. It was a lovely little ball from Armstrong. Now it's Walton. He tries to blast his way on. Ryan and Naylor. Oh, this is a fantastic run from Naylor. Blistering run from him. Armstrong keeps it out to Shaw, then Legg and Popplewell. Excellent hands under pressure from Newcastle. Walton in there as well. Less than a minute till half-time, because any time that referee Pearson decides to add on another score here for Newcastle, and they would disappear down that tunnel with a jaunty run. Controlled by Ryan. Another drive, Asfor. You can see the ground cutting up. It's difficult to get a grip, but it's with Andrew, and Rob Andrew just can't stay on his feet, but he's scrambled over. Rob Andrew scores for Newcastle. He may have hurt himself in the process, but at the end of the season, how important will that try prove to be? What a vital time to score. Pat on the back from Tuigamala. The old man's done it.
Well, that's an important score for Newcastle. Andrew in some pain, but he won't mind. Mapletoft, he buys the half dummy. Andrew loses his footing. Oh, I don't... Well, I have to say, watch this. He's lost his footing.
Well, the crowd are disgusted. They've got a big screen here, and that to me looked like a double movement.
He's on the ground, he has to release the ball, get up, and then he can play it. He didn't. That is a mistake. Watch this. If you go to ground, he goes down.
Well, the referee was with him. He was on his shoulder. Can't say he didn't get a good view.
Now, and all that matters is Pearson's decision. And for Newcastle, 7 vital points. They've turned this game around.
Who got round quickly, having thrown the ball in. Armstrong, Andrew, another dummy from Andrew, and Andrew is through, and there's no doubt about that one. Beautiful score from Rob Andrew. And just what Newcastle required at that point, and it says a lot about their character.
Well, that's as sweet a break as you'll see from Rob Andrew. That is outstanding. Gloucester torn apart, Mapletoft, and I'm afraid it's a front row forward coming across. And I think it's Nathan Carter, not in position at all. Carter out of position, and Andrew delighted to drift through there.
And the pendulum swings again, this time to the northeast. Andrew, Gloucester 21, Newcastle 24. The crowd in good voice. Armstrong shouting the orders, the scrum half, encouraging those forwards to make as much ground as possible, and then going in to get the ball onto Lam, and Lam with a head of steam, but Catlin with a good tackle. Doing what a good fullback should, last line of defence, and it was textbook, needs to be to stop that man Lam.
What pace from Lam. Well, Catling made up for his earlier errors, atoned for them in style. Side break, watch this, 15 fullback, just takes the leg, and Catling gets up so quickly.
Sims with the catch. Of course, a draw and Newcastle would still hold the advantage at the top of the table. But it would help the Saracens' cause. But here's Wear, and it's Walton, and Walton's away here, and Walton scores! Try has been given. Well, the Gloucester fans can't believe it, because I think they feel the touch judge was signalling for the referee to stop the game. The flag certainly seemed to be up. Walton has got a try. It's another controversial moment.
I think by then it was becoming very much a two-horse race between ourselves and Saracens. Leicester and Bath, who had been there or thereabouts, had slipped back too much, particularly over Easter when Bath lost at home to Saracens and then lost at Richmond on Easter Monday. That sort of put them out of the picture. And it was down to ourselves and Saracens. And after the two defeats, I mean, the Saracens game obviously was a monumental fixture. Both fixtures, actually. The one here, when we beat them 30-25, and the 12-10 defeat at Vicarage Road. I don't think you'd see better games of rugby anywhere for club games in terms of the tension. But once those had settled themselves down, we'd beaten Saracens once, they'd beaten us once.
Newcastle win today, then it'll be nearly impossible for Saracens to catch them. Rob Andrew leaving his side in no doubt what he wants from them.
The atmosphere, well, it's just great. I've never known anticipation like it for a league match. The Premiership has been aggressively competitive from the first whistle back in August. But these two quickly rose to the top, and they've earned the right for star billing today. Shooter. It's good line-out ball so far, isn't it?
Oh, it's clicking very well, the Saracens line-out. And look at the body positions of their 8.
There's Pinar into Lam. What a hit from Lam. Naylor, Tate, Ryan, and Underwood. And there's a real chance here for Underwood. It's Pat Lam. Just needed one more man to turn that back inside to. Support wasn't quite there. Armstrong. Andrew. Interesting 8, drifting out wide and then bringing in Tony Underwood. It had worked well until the final pass went to ground. But it was the kind of move which really asked questions of a defence and Saracens weren't sure what was happening there.
Well, I thought Alan Tate was almost away, as was Gary Armstrong. Good work again from Sternum to make that tackle, and they trusted him. But what's the way? Newcastle switched this. 2 dummy runners, Tate on the drift, and the scissors, well.
Ryan. Walton. Still Walton. Such a difficult man to stop. Lam. Armstrong. Andrew. Wilkinson. And his leg onto Naylor. This is Jim Naylor, almost cutting back inside. Realised he had to offload, and Nesdale was there. Armstrong, as Newcastle really pick up the pace, and there could be an overlap here. It's Lam with Ryan outside. Lam is going himself, and Lam is going to score. What a magnificent individual finish that is from Pat Lam.
Well, that is Newcastle for you. Saracens go 6 points in front, and the riposte is immediate. It came from Dean Ryan and that pick-up at the scrum. A little dummy, Walton's break. That try belonged to the back row forwards. Superb play from the back row. Naylor, he goes for the line first of all. But the key point is Saracens at last a stretch. It's quick ball, and it's a lovely pass there. And Lam, he powers his way over. Out of the way, Constable, Ravenscroft, try.
Andrew, important kick, because it takes Newcastle into the lead. Saracens 9, Newcastle 10, and there are 10 minutes to go. I think assesses the situation here. He didn't feel that Ryan was going to make it on the outside. The number 8 didn't have the pace in Lam's view. Lam certainly had the strength. Dipros, well, time will tell whether that's the right option. It is Liner's drop kick. Michael Liner has done it for Saracens. Would you believe it? The Premiership season comes alive again. Olsen. Now this is his most important pass of his career, and it only just found Liner. Leg. Andrew. Wilkinson. Now it's Tate, as Newcastle now throw caution to the wind, but the ball's out of play. It's been knocked on. There must be very little time left now.
The run-in, really, I felt we had to win those 4 games at the end, because Saracens had a couple of tricky fixtures, and was the exciting bit about the run into the season as well, was that our fixtures never coincided. The fixture list always had them playing at a different time to us, so you know, we were always listening to them playing or watching them and hoping they'd slip up, and listening on the radio that they were losing to London Irish or losing to Harlequins, and thinking, oh great, if they lose that, that means we can afford to drop another point here, and you know, that was the sort of mathematics. But they never did. They kept on winning. I mean, we even had the one stage, I think the Harlequins game, where even CFAX wound us up, because the final score went and it had 28-26 to Harlequins. And I remember all of our players, everybody was ringing each other up saying, have you heard this? Have you seen the CFAX? They've lost. And then about 5 minutes later, whilst they were on the phone to each other, CFAX just switched the scores around to 28-26 to Saracens, and everybody went, I can't believe it. But in the end, I think it helped us focus, because if they'd slipped up, I'm pretty convinced mentally we may have slipped against Leicester or Bath. But because they kept winning, we had to keep winning. was a very strange finish to the season because Saracens somehow didn't have a fixture on the last week of the season. On the last Sunday when we played Harlequins, they finished on the previous Thursday against Northampton. The previous week when we played Bath on the Monday, we were involved in the Tetley Cup final against Wasps. So as you say, we had this fixture list which was leapfrog. You know, we had staggered fixtures and we just kept leapfrogging each other for about 4 weeks, and it was difficult because in all those situations, you want to press the fast forward button and just go straight to the end and say, I've got the trophy. But in the meantime, you have to play Bristol at home and beat them. You have to play Leicester and beat them. You have to play Bath and beat them, because any slip-up in those games and we wouldn't have been able to leapfrog Saracens, and they kept the pressure on. So it was a fantastic finale, but a pretty tense one for us, really, knowing that we had I think the harder run-in than them, and there was just a 1 point slip-up where they drew at Leicester, which them in the end.
Takes that away, and he's supported by Lam and Armstrong. That was a good decision. He's got Newcastle going. And Tony Underwood is flying, and Tony Underwood is scoring. What a smart try that is. Quick thinking from the back row. Underwood may have felt it. There's a wince there, but there was certainly no lack of pace. It was a classy finish.
Well, what did we say? Ryan and Armstrong. Dean Ryan on the surge, Lam on the inside, Armstrong breaks the first line, and Underwood, pace to burn, scorches in.
Real feeling here that Underwood may well have hurt the hamstring, but here's Ryan linking with Lam. Good hands, Armstrong always on hand in those situations, and that's a good pass.
Yeah, well, Andy Nichols should have done better against Armstrong, but it's those three men, we said that before the game, 6, 8 and 9. Good kick as well.
And they go through and just about stay on their feet as well. Excellent work from the Bath forwards, but Archer denies them. Armstrong to Andrew. Lam couldn't take it, but here's Wilkinson. It's Johnny Wilkinson. Needs support, gets it from Naylor, and then it's Lam. Newcastle need quick ball. They've got it in hand, and it's Arnold! Vital try.
Well, that's a big score for Newcastle. That will lift them at half-time. It puts them in the lead again. Richard Arnold does it, but it's a lovely break from Wilkinson. Stands Perry up. That is class from the youngster. Naylor, strong, Pat Lam a hand, but really, it came from that break. And, well, a poor tackle there from Nicol, and Arnold's through, but that belongs to Wilkinson.
Goes to 14-9 with Andrew's conversion. Sir John Hall delighted, as are nearly all this crowd. Good work from Arnold.
Well, Arnold smiling, but it's the teenager Wilkinson who made that try.
Long and Regan trading places again. Walton. Brian tried to get the wrong side. Taken on by Arnold, and Arnold is charging upfield here. What an inspired run. Armstrong must move it quickly. Andrew, Twigamala along the line, and then the hand just comes in from Evans. It knocks it forward.
No. Scrum down.
Not deliberate, says the referee.
With hindsight now, when you and I sat here, it's easy to say that and say, aren't we great? We actually went and won it. And wasn't it better that we had to go to Harlequins to win it? Because the scenes at the end will live with us for a long time. It's easy to say that now. When you're there in that last week, I'd have been quite happy if Northampton had beaten Saracens and we could have said, great, don't have to bother with Harlequins. But it does make all the more gratifying that yes, we did beat Leicester, we did beat Bath, we did go to Harlequins, and we didn't freeze. We went and we played well. We also had Dean missing because of the injury against Bath, which was pretty significant. And yet we played well, and we took the championship. And I think overall, although there wasn't a lot to choose between ourselves and Saracens, as was shown in the two matches, I don't think anybody can argue that we were lucky to win the title. I thought we deserved it over the whole season.
The Harlequin set-piece line-out is a problem early on.
Peter Walton has just got one thing on his mind, and that's to take on the opposition back row from those scrums. And then Nesdale comes flying in with all of his strength. Rob Andrew. And they keep it going. Underwood quickly. Armstrong. Twigamala says gallop the way to his own man Arnold. Underwood to Popperwell. And Popperwell trying to go on as best he could. He had a Harlequin player wrapped round one leg, but it wouldn't stop him. Underwood. It's the power play again from Newcastle. Trying to batter through, and it's Arnold! Richard Arnold almost there, a metre short, and the try has been scored. Newcastle get their first try of the afternoon, and it's Gary Armstrong who's getting up with the ball. Their leading scorer in the Premiership, Armstrong, 12 now this season.
But once again, superb work from the breakaways. Walton did so well against Bath. He charges first of all. That starts the move, and then it finishes with Arnold going so well. Arnold made the break. Superb play, nearly over himself as he went over against Bath, but it's easy for Armstrong. You see, playing flat, Andrew can just take two tacklers on, and he knows support will be close at hand. Great work from the pack.
They're playing like a side that know that this is the last match, and they can afford to give every last ounce of effort. Look at them powering on through the middle. Arnold trying to skip his way through and then head down. Referee seeing it. Quite brilliant.
Well, at the moment, they're quite simply powering their way to the Premiership. And it's that man again, Richard Arnold. What an impression he is making in the last month of the season. Now the noise coming from the North East fans. Once again, it's power. Popplewell on the charge again. He looks fresh and up for it today. Arnold not tackled, off his knees, up and over. They can't hold him.
Nesdale. Armstrong. Lam once more. It's thunderous stuff. And Popplewell. In many ways, it sums up their style.
Well, you just can't stop the power of this Newcastle pack at the moment. And Popplewell having a good game. But again, it's Armstrong flipping with Lam. Damage done by Walton, though. It's Walton who's charging across the gain line. They're not stopping him early enough. The forward machine's on a roll, and then it's unstoppable. got to stop this Newcastle pack at the gain line. Once they get on a roll, it's impossible. And Popplewell, very happy.
And that weekend, you know, it would have been a fantastic double if the Football FA Cup on the Saturday. But they didn't, and we just wanted to go and make sure that we didn't slip up. It would have been disappointing for everybody if we'd slipped up, and we had a lot of the football fans came over to the Stoop on the Sunday, and it was a fabulous atmosphere. It was a beautiful day, and there were black and white hoops and black and white stripes all over the place, and it was a great sort of scene for the players, but I think also for, as you say, for Newcastle and for the city. And I hope that we can build on that and attract more and more people to a sport which I think can have a huge future on Tyneside. And I'm just so pleased that we did win it and we didn't mess it up on that last Sunday, because after the disappointment of Saturday, and a few of us were at Wembley, I think the disappointment, certainly for me personally and for the players, but for everybody associated, would have been almost too much to bear. You know, the thought of losing at Harlequins would have been disaster.
Van Zandvliet finding the ball coming all the way through. Kept his eye on it, and is why Newcastle can mount another attack through Walton. Armstrong, Nesdale picking out White. Cooper, who had a good first half, didn't make his tackle that time. Armstrong, Andrew, good pickup. Rob Andrew! Oh, Andrew all the way through! The Newcastle fans know it now, surely. And that is the man that they wanted to cross the line.
Well, Andrew sighed through there. Twigamala the first to congratulate him, and it looks like some consolation for John Hall. Broken play, and Andrew so sharp vantage.
Newcastle still very hungry, of course, for more tries to make it absolutely safe. And it's Peter Walton, and then it's Pat Lam. Lam is in. And if you had to pick one player from Newcastle this season who has been consistently superb, then it is Pat Lam. And no one now surely can deny Newcastle their title.
Well, Pat Lam will be the first man to say thanks to the stand-in for Ryan, the storming Peter Walton. And look at this for Hans, brilliant, he's showing the ball, he thinks it's going to be a pass there. Lacroix, watch him take the dummy, beautiful play. Walton, the magician, and Lam, no trouble.
I suppose in general the whole team has put a massive effort into get where we are today.
This way it's haircuts all round, is it?
It's a try for Twigamala to celebrate. Newcastle getting in.
If that doesn't confirm it, I think that does.
Yes, I think we worked hard all year. I think at the end of the day, everyone has contributed to the way we've performed this year, and you know, the players do deserve it, the supporters, everyone's here today.
I was just saying to you earlier, haircuts all round, is it? To the Inga haircut for everybody if you win?
Yeah, I brought my clippers down and I've sharpened them during the week, so the first ones are the media boys.
I'll make myself scarce then, thank you.
Thank you.
Dean Ryan has spent most of the match pacing up and down that touchline, but now Ryan can afford a smile. He's worked so hard for this, along with Rob Andrew and Steve Bates, the backroom team.
Well, I think we really, I mean, it was one of those games where I think we knew before the end of the game, because we were playing well and we sort of dominated the game. So you can at least enjoy the finish of the game on the field under the intense pressure that we were, say, for the Bath game at Gateshead, which was monumental. It was a poor game of rugby, but monumental in terms of pressure. And when the pressure is there until there was 8 minutes of extra time played against Bath, and you're sort of hanging on by your fingertips. We're defending in our own 22. One mistake and we lose the game and lose the title. But Harlequins wasn't quite like that, because we'd won the game. And it was just a sort of celebration, really, for all of us that have been involved, particularly those that have been involved right from the start, to set out. Those that came with me in the first instance when there was 2 men in the dog here, if that. And we've sort of built it up and built it up a point where we can move forward now. But it was just a celebration, really. That was a very long night. In fact, we didn't get back to Newcastle till 6:30 in the morning.
And that is it. Newcastle have won the Allied Dunbar Premiership. They are the first champions of England from the north of the country. And for a side that won trophies back in the 70s under an old name of Gosford, the revolution has come at the end of the 90s. The Falcons were born, and look what it means to Rob Andrew and Dean Ryan. It's been a magnificent story.
That's interesting. Bates, Ryan and Andrew, the three architects. They went there when it was just quicksand. They built a skyscraper in 2 years. A brilliant effort by those three men.
The trio that left Wasps went to the northeast, and they will leave London tonight, the trophy.
And Pat Lam, one of the sign-ins of the modern age. Outstanding. Andrew chaired off, but he's under pressure to perform, and he's come up with the goods.
Well, it's always difficult to pick out individuals, and you always want me to, and I'm reluctant to in some ways, because the one thing about rugby is it's very much a massive team game, and everybody's a little cog in the works, if you like, and if one of those doesn't work, then the whole thing falls apart. Pat Lam got Player of the Year, and he played extremely well, and he was noticed by everybody.
Pat Lam bursting through. They refuse to lie down, Newcastle. Armstrong shouting the orders, the scrum half, encouraging those forwards to make as much ground as possible, and then going in to get the ball onto Lam, and Lam with a head of steam, but Catlin with a good tackle. And it was textbook, needs to be to stop that man Lam. There's Pinar into Lam, what a hit from Lam.
The forwards really as a unit won as the title, and that's all of them. You know, when you've got the likes of Nick Popplewell and Ross Nesdale, Paul Van Zandt-Fleet, who had a fantastic season, you know, his first real year in the Premiership, and he's won a title. When you've got world-class second rows like Gareth Archer and Doddie Wear, the platform for Dean Ryan and Richard Arnold, Peter Walton, who contributed enormously, and Lammy to contribute as he did. He sort of worked through the team. I'm going to end up naming everybody because, Gary Armstrong. I mean, what commitment does he give to a team? It's just extraordinary.
Armstrong already got one try. Look at Armstrong now. He's really hungry. But a good drive from Newcastle, and here's Armstrong. And the little man just burrows in. And Armstrong rounding his man. Armstrong, hat-trick.
And then of the backs, we generally believe could play better. I think that's an area of the team that we need to work on. But when you've got Inga playing at his peak, Alan Tate's contributions, Stuart Legg, who took Tim Stimpson's place, Jim Naylor, who took John Bentley's place, Tony, who suffered with injury but played well when he did play. You know, everybody, Martin Shaw, Graham Childs, who had to fill in out of position for long periods of the season because of injury. And you see why it was a successful season, really. Certain individuals in the press's eyes and maybe the spectators' eyes stand out because of the way they play, but they can only do that because of what other people do. So it was a very satisfying season for the senior players, but also some of the younger players. Richard Horton came in towards the end of the season. Steve O'Neill was injured for a lot of it, unfortunately, but certainly Johnny Wilkinson. He is a huge talent. Obviously the England tour has been a bit of a disaster, is probably not too strong a word for it, and I think Johnny's confidence will have suffered a little bit on that tour, but he is a huge talent, and if nurtured properly, will become a Michael Owen. I think Michael is a bit further ahead because he's already done it in the Premiership, and he's now probably scored the goal of the World Cup, so he's just a little ahead of him. But he is a great talent, and you know, we're very pleased he's here, and we're pretty sure that he will go on to be one of England's better players.
Armstrong to Andrew. Lam couldn't take it, but here's Wilkinson. It's Johnny Wilkinson. Needs support, gets it from Naylor, and then it's Lam. Newcastle need quick ball. They've got it in hand, and it's Arnold. Vital try.
Richard Arnold does it, but it's a lovely break from Wilkinson. Stands Perry up. That is class from the youngster. Naylor, strong, Pat Lam a hand, but really it came from that break. And well, a poor tackle there from Nicol, and Arnold's through, but that belongs to Wilkinson.
I really enjoyed playing last season. I felt good. You know, I think you get to this stage of your career, and if you get injured, and that's tough, and there's nothing you can do about that. But I think when you get to this stage of your career, if you're fit and you enjoy training, which I do, then you start saying, well, why should I stop? Because once you stop, that's it, there's no going back. And I will have to stop at some stage. It may be next season, who knows, but I certainly want to play next season, provided that I can contribute to the team. If I need a wheelchair at any stage, then I'll start to question that. But I did enjoy last season. I enjoyed going back into the First Division. You know, when Dean and I came up here, and Steve Bates came initially as a player, but Steve's very much coaching now. Dean and I always wanted to go back into the First Division. We left it, and we left it for 2 years really, and it was always a big challenge to go back and see where it had moved to. I think you saw with Dean's performances, which getting recalled to the England team, you know, we both thoroughly enjoyed it, and we both want a bit more of it. And I think we'd like to play in Europe as well, in the proper European competition. That is still uncertain and possibly unlikely for next season, although you never know. I mean, there's always hope that will be resurrected. So if it's not next year and we're back in Europe the following year, I might have to be sitting here next year saying I'm going to have to play another year to play in Europe, but I'll be 47 by then, so I might be a bit old.
If selected, of course.
Of course.
Andrew held high. There were times, I'm sure, when he thought, would his side make it? When he missed those kicks at Loftus Road and his old club Wasps beat Newcastle, that must have hurt. Saracens kept on coming back in their matches and kept on winning. But so did Newcastle at the end.
Well, he says that, well, it'll be tough next year. Everybody will want your scalp next year because you're the champions. Well, I'd be surprised if anybody could want our scalp any more than they wanted it last season, to be perfectly honest. I can't see anybody that didn't give a huge performance against us. And I'm sure that will be the same again, but I believe we've coped with that once. It's not going to be easy. I mean, that's standard manager's line, I know, but there's some very good sides in there. Sides will strengthen as well. And as we saw this season, if a couple of kicks just go that far that way as opposed to going that far that way, then you may lose. And as we've seen with the soccer, if a penalty doesn't go in the back of the net, then you're out of the World Cup. So the margins are very small, but we've given ourselves a huge foundation to take the club forward, much quicker than we'd expected. And the great thing about winning your first trophy is the players know that we can do it now. Whereas we started last season not sure if we could do it, believing we could be competitive, but not knowing if we could actually win a trophy. We now know that we can do that, but as with last season, you have to go and do it. No good me and you talking about it. We've got to do it on the field.
Good luck.
Thank you.